Hello viewers, my name is Sunday. Welcome to this channel. Today, we are looking at top NABTEB government questions. Please go along with me. 1. Which of the following best explains the doctrine of rule of law? Rule of law, as explained by Baron de Montesquieu, it means supremacy of the law, when everybody, including the government, are under the law. So let's see the best option here. A. All citizens are equal before the law. B. The president is above the law. C. The army interprets the law. D. Ministers must be lawyers. You know, that last one is funny, right? The correct answer here is all citizens are equal before the law. Let's see the next question. A federal system of government is more suitable for, when we say federal system, where there's sharing of governmental power between the central government and the component units. So let's see. What kind of arrangement is it suited for? A. A small homogeneous country. B. A country with diverse ethnic groups. C. A one-party state. D. A country under military rule. You know that D is off point, has nothing to do with this. A is talking about a unitary system of government. Likewise, C is talking about a unitary system of government. So the most correct answer to this question is a country with diverse ethnic groups, like Nigeria. So that is heterogeneous society. Answer is B. The next question. A bill becomes a law when it is. Now, every bill passes through certain stages to become law. Stages or processes. We have the first, we have the second, we have the committee stage, we have the report stage, we have the third reading or third stage, and of course we have the assent when it is given to the president to sign the law. So a bill becomes law when it is A. Discussed in the parliament, interpreted by the judiciary, signed by the head of state, debated by ministers. The correct answer here from what I just explained is C. When it is signed by the head of state, we call it assent or approval. Assent or approval. C is the correct answer. The next question. Which of the following ensures that one arm of government does not dominate the others? In other words, which principle of government that prevent arbitrary use of power of any organ of the government? Remember, we have legislature, executive, and judiciary as the three organs of government. So which principle of government prevent either of these three to exercise abuse of power, abnormal power, arbitrary power, or dominate the others? A. Pressure groups. B. Rule of law. C. Checks and balances. D. Civil society. The most correct answer here is checks and balances. Okay? Checks and balances complement the principle of separation of power. All right? Let's go on. The next question. A constitution is said to be rigid when, there are two major types of constitution. We have rigid, written and unwritten. All right? And then we have two nature of amendment, rigid or flexible. When it's rigid, it means it can be changed, but not easily to be changed. Many people misinterpret the word rigid to mean that constitution cannot be changed. That is an error. It can be changed, but the process is cumbersome. The process is difficult. So let's see which of the option is close for us. It is a foreign language. That's funny, It is written. It cannot be changed at all. D. It requires a special procedure to amend. The correct answer is D. Why? For you to change, a written constitution is always rigid in nature. And for you to change a rigid constitution, it must take 2/3 majority. 2/3 majority of the National Assembly in Nigeria for you to change it, and 2/3 majority of the 36 states. So you can see the process is difficult, it's cumbersome, but it can be changed. So the correct answer is D. All right? The judiciary performs the function of government. Executing laws, making laws, interpreting laws, proposing bills. Which organ executing laws? Executive. Which organs make laws? Legislature. Which organ propose bills to the National Assembly? Executive. So which organ interpret law? Judiciary. The correct answer there is C. The next question. Which of these is not a characteristic of a state? In other words, all are characteristics of a state except one. Okay? Let's see. Sovereignty, population, constitution, government. What makes a state is that there are population, there are human beings staying there. What makes a state, since there are human beings, there must be a government to regulate the activities of these human beings. And government has a document to operate with. And that document is what? Is constitution. Okay? So the one we can bring out of here is sovereignty. The sovereignty resides with the people of the states, but is being used by the government. So the correct answer here is option A. The next question. The final interpretation of the Constitution is the duty of the, when we say interpretation, to interpret means to explain, to define. So which organ of government explain or define the law? Is it legislature? Is it executive? Is it judiciary? Let's see. A, legislature. B, president. C, Supreme Court. D, House of Assembly. You know, legislature also House of Assembly. So A and D are similar. Okay? The president's executive has nothing to do with interpretation. The correct answer here is the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the judiciary that interprets, that explains, that defines the law. In fact, when there's a disagreement between any level of government, either federal and state or federal and local government, they go to Supreme Court for proper interpretation of the position of the Nigerian Constitution. So the answer is C, the Supreme Court, which is the judiciary. The next, I hope you're enjoying this session. Please subscribe to this channel to get more from us. All right? The next question. A political party is different from a pressure group because now, you know, a political party, a group of people that come together with the main interest of contesting for power and winning the power and government and controls the government. But pressure group, they are not interested in contesting for power. They only influence government as regards to the interests of their members. So there are two different entities. So let's see. Because the emphasis now is on the political party. Political party is different from a pressure group because it A, influences policies, lobbies government, contests elections, uses violence. Well, which one influences policy? That is pressure group. Which one lobbies the government? Pressure groups. So contest election. The political party contests election to control government. That is the major aim of their coming together to form that association. So the correct answer here is option C. Assuming they put the question the other way around, putting a pressure group first, differentiating it from political party, the answer would be to influence policies of the government. So the answer for this particular question is option C. Political party contest elections to control government. Let's see the next question. The organ of government that initiates bills is the, we have the three organs of government here: judiciary, executive, legislature, electoral commission. Electoral commission is funny, it's off the track, okay? So which one here initiate bills? What is bills? Bills are proposed law, all right? To initiate me to suggest what should become law. Is it legislature? Legislature, they are the one that make laws. Judiciary, they interpret law. The answer here is executive. B, option B, the executive. They are the one that initiate bills to the legislature to pass it to become laws. The executive. Most of the bills are passed are initiated by the executive, discussed by the legislature, and passed to become law. All right? The next question. Franchise is another name for franchise is suffrage. Suffrage. Okay? So what is suffrage or what is franchise? Process of party registration, right to vote, conduct of elections, selection of ministers. The correct answer is B, the right to vote. Franchise means right to vote and be voted for. Right to vote and be voted for. So B, that was it, franchise. All right? An advantage of a two-party system is that, we have four major types of party system. You have 0, you have 1, you have 2, and of course you have multi. All right? So this particular question is emphasizing on 2. Now, what's the advantage of the two-party? 1, allows multiple ideologies. When it's a multiple, then it's talking about multi-party. B, promote dictatorship. That's one party, of course, will lead to dictatorship. C, offers clear alternatives. And D, confuses the electorate. Two parties cannot confuse the electorate because it's either A or it's either party B or party A. So that is clear enough. Unlike when you have many political parties, diverse. When you have, like in Nigeria, when you have close to 63 political parties, so there'll be confusion. So this D is talking about multi-party. Why the correct answer for this question is C, offers clear alternatives. It's either you choose party A or choose party B. Clear alternative, C. All right? The next question, the independence of judiciary guaranteed by, what is independence of judiciary? It means that judiciary should be free, should be separated, free from the other two organs of government, legislature and executive, so as to concentrate in interpretation of law and then to give interpretation based on what fairness and justice without fear or favor. All right? So how can we guarantee that this judicial independence can interpret the law based on the principles of the Constitution without fear or favor? A, public opinion. B, executive orders. C, security votes. D, security provisions. It should be guaranteed by by constitutional provisions. By constitutional provisions, which is option D. The Constitution should be stated that judiciary should be protected, and all these conditions that will guarantee independence should be stated in the Constitution. For instance, let me give you some of those conditions that should be stated in the Constitution to protect the judiciary independence. One, it should be stated in the Constitution that the salary, the remuneration, payment of judiciary officials should not be from the government purse, from the executive, but should be part of the budget, national budget. By so doing, the executive cannot influence them. It should also be stated that the executive should not be the one to appoint the head of judiciary, but should be done by judiciary council. Are you with me? It should also be stated that the security of term of office of judiciary should be secured. All these conditions must be stated in the Constitution so that it can be obeyed by any government in power. All right? Let's see the next question. Which of the following is not a feature of indirect rule? Remember, indirect rule was a system introduced by the British government, whereby they use the traditional rulers to rule the people, the subjects. Okay? So, so which one is not? The question is which one is not. That means all of them are features of indirect rule, except one. All are features of indirect rule, except one. A, use of traditional rulers, of course, yes, that's the meaning of indirect rule. B, centralized authority. C, preservation of local customs. D, local participation. If you notice, the use of traditional rulers means the local people are allowed to participate in government, in the ruling of British government in their colonies, okay? Then to preserve local customs is also correct because it's similar to this. The one that is not correct is centralized authority. Centralized because actually under British indirect rule, it means decentralized of authority from British to different traditional rulers that make up different colonies, okay? So the answer for this question is B, centralized authority. It's not a feature of indirect rule. I hope you're enjoying this session. Please subscribe to this channel for more. All right? The next question, which of these is an essential duty of a citizen? Essential. Essential means important duty of a citizen. A, running for office. Must you run for office as a citizen? Not necessary. Obeying laws, of course. Owning property. If you work, you have money, you can own property. You don't have money, you cannot. Joining a party, also joining a political party is also not compulsory. It's not important, it's not essential, okay? You can if you like. The most correct answer to this question is B, obeying the law. All citizens are expected, your fundamental duty and obligation to your state is to what? To obey the laws. All right? We see the next one. The difference between pressure groups and political parties is that pressure groups. Now, we just answer a question similar to this. Previous, maybe number 8 or 9 thereabout. Now look at it. And I explained this while I was picking answer for the other one, that if they have put the question in alternates, the answer will also be an alternate. And that's exactly what has happened right now. So with my previous explanation, it's very easy for us to pick our answer now, because it's just like words and opposite. Okay? The difference between pressure groups and political is that the pressure groups, A, are illegal organizations. Wow, how can you say that? B, seek to gain control of government. That is political party, of course. That was the question we answered earlier. C, focus only on economic issues. How? D, do not contest for elections. That is the most correct answer. Pressure groups don't contest for elections like political party. The option there is D, correct answer. Let's go to the next question. Which of the following best describe public opinion, the opinion of the public? Government policy, the view of the elite, majority opinion on public issues, religious sentiment. The most correct answer without wasting our time here is C, majority opinion on public issues. What many people are saying, many, majority. It may not be all, majority are saying on public issues. That's public opinion. All right? A nation is different from a state. I don't know if you have understanding background of what nation is and what a state is. A state is a geographical entity, made up of people, population, government, law, and all those stuff. A nation is a group of people sharing common history, ancestry, culture, tradition. It's a nation. For instance, Igbo is a nation in Nigeria, Igbo nation. Yoruba is a nation, Yoruba nation. Hausa, Fulanis, each of these are nations on their own, okay? Because they have similar ancestry, similar culture, the same culture, language, and what have you, right? So a nation is different from a state because so the emphasis here, if you understand English, is on what? A nation. So what is a nation? Has no government? It could, it's possible. Lacks sovereignty? Is a cultural group? Cannot make law. A nation, most of the time, are people of the same culture. People of the same culture. So cultural group C. We'll go on. Concept of collective responsibility means that collective responsibility. Well, this is under the types or system of government where you have presidential and parliamentary, right? When you talk about responsibility of the ministers. Under presidential system of government, we have individual responsibility of the ministers. While under parliamentary, we have collective responsibility of the ministers. Individual responsibility of the minister means that if a minister does well, such minister will be praised by the president. If he didn't do well, the same minister will be what? Fired or blamed by the president. But in a parliamentary system of government, there's collective responsibility of all the ministers. Why? Most of the ministers were also members of the legislature. Okay? Now, if a minister misbehaves or does wrong, the wrong will be blamed on the old ministers. And if a minister does well, the praise goes to what? To the collective interest of the ministers. And that is why when you are removing here, you call it vote of no confidence. The prime minister and all the ministers will be suspended for a new government to take place under this. So let's see this. What is collective responsibility? Let's come to the options. A, judges work together. Ministers defend cabinet decision. Lawmakers must vote the same way. Civil servants take oaths. The most correct answer to explanation I gave to you here is the ministers defend the cabinet decision because they are either down together or rise together. Okay? So the ministers defend the decisions of the cabinet. The cabinet is made up of the prime minister and other ministers. Let's go. The next question. In which of the following system is the head of state also the head of government? Okay? As a background to see, this is also types of government or system of government. We have the presidential system, and we have the parliamentary system. In a presidential system, we have one single person, a single person as the head of state. This person is both the head of state and as well as the head of government. Being the head of state means is the president. Okay? And being head of government means is what? Prime minister. That means combine the two offices together. And because of that, it's not being called president or prime minister. It's being referred to as what? Executive president. Executive president. But here, in the alternate, in other parliamentary system of government, we have two persons instead of single person, two persons, right? One is head of state, while one is head of government. The head of state is a ceremonial president, while the head of government is what? The prime minister. Take note, in a presidential system, the president is an executive president because you combine the two offices together. While in a parliamentary system, the head of state is a ceremonial president, performing ceremonial functions, while the real government, running of the government, is left with the prime minister. So let's come to our question. With this background, it's very easy for us to pick our option now. Which of the following system is head of state, also the head of government? Just explain that: parliamentary, presidential, monarchical, unitary. The answer is B, presidential system of government. Okay? A major criticism of indirect rule was that what was the major criticism? Criticism could be what? Disadvantage or problem of indirect rule. We have mentioned indirect rule in the earlier question we just treated now. Okay? A, it ignored traditional rulers. That could not be correct because indirect rule make use of the traditional rulers. So you could have ignored those we use. B, it reduced local autonomy. It promoted education. It imposed foreign culture. Okay? A criticism: reduced local autonomy, promoted education, imposed foreign culture. I think here, the answer, ignore, this one is correct, of course. It's an advantage. This is an advantage, does not ignore, right? It reduces local autonomy, of course, though they are ruling, but they don't have total power on their subject. They are still subjected to the British colonial masters. Colonial masters still dictates whatever happened, all right? So it reduced local autonomy. That means local freedom, local sovereignty were reduced, even though the people were being ruled by their traditional rulers, but they are still not totally free from the claws of the British master. Okay? So I'm picking the option B for this particular question. Let's go on. Which of the following is true about one-party system? One-party system. I just explained this in the previous question, right? When I explained the types of party system, excuse me, one party, two, three, multi, and zero party. Okay? So which one is true about one party when there's only one party in a particular country? It allows for opposition. That cannot be correct because it says only one party. If it's only one party, that's the only party that's recognized. Opposition is not allowed. It ensures democratic rule. No. Why? It does not give us choice. There should be a choice, alternative for the people to make. It limits political competition. Yes. It promotes multi-party. How can one party promote multi-party? This is absurd. So the correct answer here is what? It limits political competition. It's only one party, so there's no competition. The only party will present all the candidates for the elected offices. No competition. All right? The next question. Which arm of government is responsible for budget approval? In one of our previous sessions, we explained questions that are similar to this, particularly when I was talking about these two words, approve and appoint. Okay? I did that in one of our previous sessions when we were discussing, was it WAEC or JAM questions? Okay? All appointment in government is done by the executive arm of government, while all approval is done by what? Legislative arm. So when executive appoints, submit the list, the appointment to what? To the legislature for approval. Likewise, budget is in the purview of the executive. The executive drafts the budget and submit through the president to the National Assembly or the legislature for approval. Okay, let's see. So which arm of government is ready for approval? Judicial, legislature, and civil service. The answer is clear there. The legislature approve the budget. Option C. Legislature approve the budget. Okay? The Electoral Commissions ensures A, party victory, fair elections, judicial independence, government stability. The major aim of setting up Electoral Commission is to conduct a free and fair election. So we call fair elections. B, option B is the most correct answer. Fair elections. Which of these countries influenced Nigerian federal structure the most? Maybe I should give you a background a bit. At the time of independence in 1960, The colonialists suggested to us and the then nationalists, they adopted the British system of parliamentary system. British system of government, parliamentary, where we have two leaders, the head of state, Nnamdi Azikiwe, and of course, head of government, Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa. Okay? Now, we are operating this system, perhaps we have operated the system to date if there had not been military intervention. The military intervened in 1966, and they were in power until 1979 when Olusegun Obasanjo, military man, decided to what? Transit from military government to civilian government, to relinquish power to civilian government of Alhaji Shehu Shagari. So a constitution was drafted, 1979 constitution, and that constitution changed Nigerian system of government from parliamentary system that we had in 1960 and 1963 constitution was changed to presidential system of government, which is in pattern, in alliance with United States of America system. Okay, so we move from British system of parliament to what? USA, American system of presidential government. All right, so the correct answer for my explanation here is what? Is B, option B. Okay, which of the following best describes a confederation? Now, we have federation. Federation is federalism. Federal system where power is being shared between the central government and the component units. The component units in Nigeria before were regions. Later, we now have state and local government. That's for federal. But when we say confederalism, it also means sharing of power. But in this case, the power is being shared between the central government and the component units in such a way, look at my drama, in such a way that the greatest power is given to the component unit, while the center is given only small power. So in this confederation, the central government is weak. So another name for confederation is weak central government. Weak central government. Okay? So because the component unit at any point in time can secede. In fact, the sovereignty of a confederal state is lying with the component unit, not the central government, with the component unit. And that's why the component unit at any point in time can secede. They can break away, okay, from the confederation. No wonder no country is operating it at the moment, right? So, which of the following best describe a confederation? A union of independent states, yes. B, strong central government, that is federalism. C, government without law, wow, that's anarchy. D, military government. The most correct answer here is a union of independent states coming together. A place come to mind, USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republics. They are union of independent states. And by 1991, they broke to different 15 countries. Okay? So the correct answer here is A. The next question, a constitution performs the following functions. We are looking at functions of a constitution. Limiting government except, okay, please always take note of this clause or this word, except. In other words, all of them are correct except one. All the options are correct except one. So let's see. Limiting government powers, organizing elections, guaranteeing rights, defining structures of government. The Constitution states the system and the structure of government being operated in that country. The Constitution contains the fundamental human rights. The Constitution states the limit of powers for every organ of government so that they will prevent what? Arbitrary use of power. So the only one that is not part of the Constitution is organizing elections. Organizing elections is done by the what? By the electoral body set up by the government for that purpose. So the correct answer here is B, organizing elections. That is not the focus of the Constitution. The next question, proportional representation is best associated with military government, traditional system, multi-party system, one-party system. What is the proportional representation is talking about? The arrangement such a way that parties are represented in the legislative house according to the total number of votes secured in an election. According to the total number of votes secured in an election. So the correct answer to this question is multi-party system. Proportional representation is synonymous with what? Multi-party system. Okay? Let's see the next question. Which of the following ensures accountability in governance? Which one ensures accountability in government? Governance, in ruling, rule of law, political culture, pressure groups, public opinion. Now, we make the government accountable to us based on the provisions of the law. You are accountable. You can't just rule by yourself. You must rule based on the rule of law, what the law states, not what you think as members of government. Rule of law, A. The next question. Political socialization does not take place through, we have political culture, right? PC, political culture, which means the process of acquiring, or the process of orientation of your culture, right? Why political socialization means the process of transmitting your culture from one generation to another generation. Okay? So, which one does not take place? Does not take place through. Of course, these are agents of socialization. Schools. When you go to schools, an agent, the media houses, agent, army, family. So the correct answer here is the army. The army is not an agent of socialization. Does not. Okay? C. Option C. Let's see the next one. Which of these types of government exists when the head of state is also the head of religion? Religion has to do with theocracy. Theo means theology. Theology. Okay? Oligarchy, few ruling. Theocracy is an example of oligarchy. Monarchy, when a king or a queen is ruling. Plutocracy, Pluto, rich, when the rich is ruling. So the correct answer here is theocracy. Theocracy. When head of state is also what? Head of religion. This was practiced by the Hausa Fulani under the Emirate system. Okay? The next question. I hope you're enjoying this session. Please subscribe to this channel for more. A by-election is conducted to A. Resolve party dispute, replace a deceased legislator, re-elect the president, elect local chief. The correct answer here is to replace a deceased legislator. By-election is necessary when a member of parliament, that's legislature, either resign or dies or recall. Recall means to be removed from office. If any of these three happen, there will be a by-election. A by-election. All right? The next one, the two types of constitution, I mentioned this earlier, whether in number 1 or number 2 when we started this session. There was a question that I referred to, then I explained types of constitution, written and unwritten, then amendment process, rigid and flexible. So the two types of constitution are written or unwritten. Written means codified in one document. Unwritten does not mean it's not written at all. It means it is written in separate documents. All right? So the correct answer here is C. Flexible and rigid is talking about process of amendment. All right? Of amending either written or unwritten. Correct answer is C. The next question, delegated legislation is needed because what is delegated legislation? The word legislation is law. That's delegated law. Among the three organs of government, legislature, executive, and judiciary, who makes law? The legislature makes law. Okay? Now, at times, the legislature can ask executive to make law on his behalf. The same thing can also be applicable to what judiciary. For instance, if executive make laws on behalf of legislature, such laws are called ordinance. Okay? If judiciary makes laws on behalf of legislature, such laws are called what? Case laws. All right? So delegated legislation is when the legislature, give out its power of lawmaking, which is act of parliament, to either executive or judiciary or any other agency of government. For instance, when local government make laws, they are called bylaws. So all these are delegated legislation. Okay? So let's see. So why would they delegate their power? Why? A. Judiciary cannot make laws. B. Ministers want to rule directly. C. Legislature lack time for details. D. Laws must be made in secret. If it's going to make in secret, why delegating it? So the correct answer here is time. Because most of the time they lack time for details on the process of passing bill to law. So sometimes they ask other organ or other agency of government to help them to look into the details and the nitty-gritty of a particular bill before it becomes law. Legislature lack time for details. C. The Nigerian government is a signatory to ECOWAS mainly to, I hope we can still recollect that the formation of ECOWAS in 1975, Nigeria was the brain behind that formation. Nigeria and Togo, under Yakubu Gowon as the military head of state, and Asigbe Yadema of Togo. So ECOWAS was like our brainchild. We are just the major stakeholder in ECOWAS. So why are we the one as part of the signatory? A, to exploit other nations. B, to join military parts. C, to promote regional cooperation. D, to dominate smaller countries. Of course, the answer is C, to promote regional cooperation. Nigeria has given so much to ECOWAS that cannot be denied by other countries in the sub-regional states. And that's why we have so much interest in whatever happens in ECOWAS as the big brother of ECOWAS. All right? At this point, we'll be stopping here today. Please go over the video again, subscribe to this channel, watch over and over, and if you have any comments or questions, please drop them at the end of this, and we're going to get back to you. Thank you.